I watched this video a few days ago. And let's just listen to what he has to say and see if you agree with what he's saying.
What's up, everyone? It's Endymion, and I've decided to give the BG3 controversy some time to simmer, but I think it's time to address some interesting revelations that have come to light. So in this video, I'll be covering all the new information surrounding this discussion, but first I want to start by talking about, well, actually myself, which is kind of weird. My first Baldur's Gate 3 video has gone viral, I guess you could say, and it ended up driving a ton of discussion surrounding the controversy. And eventually, the video got referenced by IGN in their video that covers the same topic. Destin Legary, who works at IGN, even shouted me out in the description section, but I was quickly removed after people noticed my name.
Wow.
I would assume this was done because my
up.
channel and my way of thinking isn't exactly welcomed in the various echo chambers within the games industry. I don't find it insulting that I was removed either, since unfortunately when it comes to channels like my own, saying the quiet part out loud constantly tends to piss off the people who don't want those opinions vocalized.
Yeah,
so I was
because you're messing up the industry, bro.
Because I am what the gaming industry hates, basically.
Yeah,
this won't dissuade me or change how I do things, but it does mean I'll likely never get an invitation to the Game Awards either, which is totally fine by me. After all, someone needs to keep that industry accountable for how predatory and broken it is. So if it has to be anyone, it might as well as be me, is what I'm saying. But it's pretty cool knowing that my voice, whether people like it or not, is reaching the upper echelons of gaming media, so thank you. Alright, now let's get on to the news, and I want to use this chance to extend a helping hand. So hopefully people who hate me actually watch long enough to see that I'm actually trying to help. Okay. Obviously, this entire controversy has stirred the gaming industry into a frenzy, with devs saying fans are wrong for wanting more, and fans becoming more frustrated that the industry that they love refuses to meet their demands. So let's start with this article from Rock Paper Shotgun titled, Baldur's Gate 3 is Metacritic's highest rated PC game ever, but devs are rejecting cheap comparisons. RPS summarizes the events that led to this moment and how the disparity between consumers and developers are growing with every new release. They then cite one developer named Gary J. King, who I actually think brings up some good points. He started by saying, and I quote, "None of these developers are defending the status quo of AAA here. They're contextualizing the status quo, explaining how things came to be this way and why Baldur's Gate 3 is an anomaly in the space. They're saying that if we want more BG3s, something needs to change. This idea of lowering our expectations is key to this. The AAA industry is increasingly moving towards greater scopes and bigger budgets, ballooning dev times. A single failure can sink a studio, years of people's lives and millions of dollars burned away. More risk equals less risk taking."
So now I don't agree with that. I don't agree with the fact that they feel like the AAA space is trying to move into another direction, because they're not. I mean, y'all just seen what all the controversy going on with Madden right now, what EA has been doing to that franchise. We've seen what 2K Games has done with NBA 2K. We've seen how Activision treats Call of Duty. We saw what happened when Blizzard did Overwatch 2. Like, they're not trying to go better.
The industry conditions that birthed Larian and let them hone their craft over several games before they made Baldur's Gate 3 no longer exist. That's why it's unreasonable to expect this to become the new standard. We literally want the same thing as you. If IGN had read the discussion being had in good faith, they'd have known all of this. Instead, they put their stock in some shittier gaming YouTubers that thrive on anything that stokes discontent towards developers.
So that has been my biggest point I've been trying to hammer home for the longest, is there's a lot of YouTube influencers out there that really only do this just to get paid, just to get clicks, just to get people to watch 5 minutes of their video, may not even watch the whole video, just enough to get credit for the watch time so they can collect a paycheck. But they are spewing bullshit the entire time that you're watching the video, praising games that don't really deserve to have praise. And you have the bigger companies who want these guys to do videos on their game because they're gonna sell the game even though the game is not worth buying. Like like, gotta think about the fact games have went up to $70 a pop, and we're getting less content or worse content than when games were $50 a pop or $60 a pop. You're raising the price of the game, but you're giving us less content, or you're giving us shittier designs and just cookie cutter paste, together ideas that don't actually work for the consumer. Then on top of that, you're throwing in microtransactions and all this what you call DLC, but it's not really DLC. You're paying for skins and stuff like that. And we're spending if a person really calls themselves investing in a AAA space game, you might end up shelling out about a few thousand to actually get what you really want out of the game, which didn't used to be the case back when we was only paying $50 and $60 for these games.
And credit these guys in the video description, end quote. By the way, when he said shittier gaming YouTubers, he means people like me. It's nice to see what these devs really do think when people actually push back, so thank you for that.
Here's my thing.
Gary.
Now, here's my thing. That guy, like I said, is calling this guy a shitty YouTuber because he is voicing a real opinion and giving real facts about how these games are, and what's been going on with the development, and how Baldur's Gate came in and Elden Ring, just like it, came in and shook up the gaming space because they gave you full-blown games without any microtransactions or any extra paywalls. They gave you full-fledged games that are full of content that gives you hours and hours of play. They have earned their $70 value, where a lot of these games haven't. They want to call him a shitty YouTuber because he will blow the whistle on it and let you know, hey, y'all wasting your money. And I don't agree with him, with them, bagging on this dude like this.
He starts off, I think, saying the right thing, which is that the way in which Baldur's Gate came to be is an anomaly, and that if people want more games like it, the industry does need to change. He's right that the AAA industry is definitely moving towards larger budgets and ballooning dev time. And it's true that the risk that is big budget games is so great that it's also the reason why the AAA industry can't take as many risks. This is why most AAA games are either a first-person shooter, an open-world game, or both pretty much.
What I just say. Cookie cutter. Cookie cutter games. We either get a first-person shooter, we get an open world, or we get games that used to be one way, but now are turned into another thing because they're trying to just meet the AAA status quo of just give them what we've already been making and then load the game up with microtransactions and a battle pass.
They have to stick to what works and what they believe will ensure enough people will want to buy the product. It's also why you'll likely never see a visual novel game with the budget of, say, God of War, for obvious reasons.
Right.
But the part I have a problem with is where Gary says the key is to lower expectations and the variables that lead to a studio like Larian no longer exist. I think the meteor...
So why are they trying to step out Larian? Ask me that question. Why are we trying to stamp out Larian for doing what gamers expect to happen in the first place? You want to remove a game because, or a gaming company, because they decide to not join the good old boys, the good old boy crew, so to speak, and they actually want to make good games.
Response to Larian and BG3 is because, largely speaking, the AAA games industry has been nothing but the lowering of expectations for years now. It's gotten so bad that it's universally expected for full price games at launch to not work properly, or oftentimes not even...
Okay, now I do have a question. And tell me if I'm wrong. And I know they got Diablo up here. Even though I love that game, it does have its flaws. But tell me I'm wrong here. Is it fair to charge $70 for a game? To charge $70 for a game and then give you a half-baked, not really fully fleshed out game that you're just going to sit here for the lifespan of how long this game is going to run or however long you're going to support this game. The devs are going to support this game, update it as we go along, instead of giving us a finished product to begin with.
Even be in a playable state. Too many games, especially in the AAA space, are storefronts first and video games second.
Yeah.
With Diablo and Destiny being prime examples of everything that's wrong with the modern gaming industry right now. I don't think lowering fans' expectations would fix anything, since, to be real with you, our expectations honestly can't get any lower than they are right now. I fully expect the newly announced Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 to be an absolute hellscape of microtransaction nonsense.
It's gonna be.
That'll be full
Call
of
of Duty will be
bundles
full of
worth hundreds
microtransactions,
of
just
from
like
the
every other
get-go.
game
And
that
at the
they've
same
put out.
time, I also fully expect the game to run like ass, have glitches,
Yeah,
and
it's gonna be
miss key features
glitchy,
that
buggy.
previous games
You're gonna have
already had.
hackers.
But don't worry, just ignore those.
But everybody's
and
still
buy
gonna
that
buy the game.
$15 anime girl bundle, consumer, since that's the real reason that game exists anyway.
Yeah.
It's also insane that players need to demand even basic features in games as well. Like most recent Battlefield games just launch without a scoreboard, or Diablo fans needing to make new characters just to use them as mules to put all their items into because the devs refuse to increase item capacity.
Correct.
It just proves that the easiest and most welcome of fixes are never prioritized. And the things that make money, like cross-media bundles, are always prioritized instead. It's very telling is what I'm saying. And as of the making of this video, the Destiny Final Shape Showcase hasn't happened yet. But if I had to guess, all the coolest sets of armor will
It's
also
gonna be locked behind a
paywalls
paywall.
as well.
They're gonna put it behind a
players
paywall.
actually want will only become available to them if they kneel and accept the nickel and diming that is the modern gaming industry.
Exactly.
So when your only solution to the growing disparity between your consumer base and your craft is to demand the lowering of expectations, I'm sorry, but that's just not possible. It may have been maybe 5 years ago, but these days it's so evidently clear that studios and publishers just don't care
want your
about
money.
the player experience.
No, they just want to make money.
The only way things get better is if we reject the practices that have become the norm.
Yeah, big business has brought their ass in here, and they don't play video games. They bring people in that strategically know how to just come in, figure out ways to make money. You think about now in Diablo's case, I like the skins that's in the game already over the stuff that's on the store. But there's a lot of games that literally do not put their best work into the game. They put it on the store, so you have to buy it. Look at Apex, bro. Apex's skins are so basic unless you're willing to spend some money. Then you get the cool stuff. But without that, nah, you're getting the bare minimum at best. Bunch of color swaps more than anything.
Today, players are definitely not frothing at the mouth wanting to see their favorite studios fail and shutter down. It would break my heart to see BioWare or CD Projekt Red eventually close their doors and disband. I don't want to see Bungie, for example, abandoning Destiny completely. I also would love to see Activision Blizzard, for once in a long time, actually give a shit about the player experience.
Activision Blizzard stopped giving a care about the player experience a long time ago.
Predatory nonsense. I don't want Diablo's community of millions of fans to suffer and have a terrible time playing the game that they love. I personally don't wake up thinking I want the gaming industry to burn to the ground, even though people like Gary or IGN probably think I do. What I do want is for the gaming industry to admit that the way it's doing things is not working. And
they're not going to admit it. They're not going to admit it. I know, and I'm going to try not to pause it after this. I think we're going to try to get through the video, but he touches on a lot of points. But they're never going to admit that they actually care about the gaming space to actually bring good games. They only care about making games that they can monetize and pull money out of your ass for forever until they're finally ready to bring out the new version of the game, which then they'll try to shell you over to there where they can make more money off of you.
And accept that the only way things get better is when they start respecting their customers more. Baldur's Gate 3 is absolutely an anomaly, and it's for all the wrong reasons if we're being honest.
It's not an anomaly.
It shouldn't be surprising and this much of an issue of discourse.
The fact that we're saying that somebody can make a game
not only works well at release, but isn't
and make a complete game without you having to pay extra for the content is an anomaly, is a problem in the gaming industry.
Player expectations.
What's up with you for Fathom? Fathom in the building, y'all. Hold on. But yeah, these games are not like, the industry is not trying to better the industry. They're just trying to milk as much money off of our asses as they can.
Such a basic fundamental meeting of expectations is considered damaging or problematic in the eyes of so many devs. There was also an article recently from Pushware titled, Larian Studio CEO responds to raise standard concerns, standards die every day. I really think what
No, they
Larian
don't.
boss Sven Vink says here is really worth hearing, so he says, and I quote, obviously, yeah, if you're a 50-man studio or 10-man studio, you shouldn't try to make a game like BG3.
Why
The
not?
problem
Hold on. So here's my thing. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. It doesn't matter how many people is in the studio. I play indie games that one guy worked on and made by himself come out better than a game that's made by a 50-man or 100-man studio. So the amount of developers in the studio does not warrant how good the game's going to be. I think that's a bunch of bullshit that people try to use that excuses. Oh, we don't have enough people in here developing the game. If one person can make a game, 50 people should be able to make a great game, and 100 people should be able to make an awesome game. It doesn't make sense to me that people with less people in the studio make better games than people that's got 100-man teams. That's bullshit. Don't use that excuse.
I have is with the use of the word standards. This is video games. Standards just die every day. Things get reinvented. New things appear all the time. When I was starting out in
Nothing
the
new is
industry,
appearing all the time.
Assassin's Creed set a new standard. It was over. Nobody could make games like
Hold on. You said too many people is the problem. I agree. I agree. Sometimes you got too many heads trying to do too many things. But then you got to think about a 50-man team now. 25 of a 50-man team is actually developing the game. The other 25 is working on monetization and how to milk money out of your ass.
Assassin's Creed, there was too much budget behind it, and that was going to be the future.
Assassin's Creed was
Everybody's
great
had to consolidate, blah,
until
blah,
too many
blah.
people got involved.
That didn't materialize. In video games, there's so much free space to explore. Still,
Street Fighter broke my heart when they added the battle pass to their game.
Changed the standards to the point that there's no standards. Was my
see, like this game right here is great.
To evolve, especially in this medium, which
this
is
probably gonna be the
than
next
any
game I
other
play.
Media in the sense that technological evolution has always been,
and then Armored Core as well.
There's always been innovation.
It is the Mafia,
Fathom.
It is the Mafia for sure.
Technological evolution to do something crazy. And KUUL.
They're trying to run the gaming scene like the drug scene
has done before. End quote. What Larian's boss says here is true, that there isn't one single standard, but multiple ones at any given time. And that we're focusing on the wrong things here as well. The fact BG3 has set a new standard for RPGs is true. There's just no denying that. But I would say Elden Ring also set a new
did a good job
for
of that
open
too.
World games. And I think The Witcher 3
is like gambling in Nevada.
You
right.
For the
you are right.
Quests and
especially when we get to talking about loot boxes.
All those years back too.
Especially when we get to talking about loot boxes.
I would argue has set a standard for how good a first-person shooter game should feel. And games like Final Fantasy XVI have set new standards for cinematics and gaming.
Exactly.
We're not saying now that every game in the AAA industry needs to have the storytelling and content quantity of Baldur's Gate, with the shooting mechanics of Destiny and the cinematic feel of Final Fantasy.
Right.
All players are asking of this industry that has been rotting at its core
better.
for years now is to meet them halfway and admit that the way things have been going is not respectful or understanding of the very people whose money, dedication, and time allow it to exist. We're not asking for every...
Okay, and I think that's where the excuse comes in. So a lot of these devs is basically trying to make it seem like, okay, when a Final Fantasy 16 drops, and it's amazing, that we expect every other company to go out and make a Final Fantasy 16. Or, the way Elden Ring came out. And then that's not what we expect. We understand what companies make and what they're good at. I don't expect 2K Games to go make Destiny. I don't expect EA Sports or EA Games to go make Final Fantasy. What I'm saying is that what we're saying as a community is, in the space that you are good at, make a good game. Stop making these half-baked ass games, selling them at full price, then you just update it as it goes. By the time the game actually fully gets to its full realized state, the new game is coming out. and we're getting ready to shell out another $70. And then in that $70, you're still asking me for more money with all the microtransactions and battle passes. We're just asking you do better. Like, if I'm playing a game like Final Fantasy 16 and they decide to throw in a battle pass, well, the game has already given me more than enough content to warrant me spending an extra $10 for a battle pass. It's how DLC used to be back in the day. Think about when you used to get games back in the day and they would add DLC. You pay $60 for the game. You'd play that game to its fullest. And then at the end of the day, when they decide, okay, we want to add some more to the game, so we're going to give y'all some DLC missions and add some new stuff to the game. When you pay that $15 or so, you got so much more content in that DLC that you felt like you just bought a whole nother game. Now, we're paying $15 for skins to look different, but the game is not different. You're not adding any value to the game, but you still want more money. It doesn't make sense to me.
Every game to be Baldur's Gate 3. We're just asking for you, the developers, studios, and publishers, to stop seeing us as cash cows. To instead see us as people who want to have fun, who don't want every
That's the problem,
game
Fathom,
we
is
buy or
nobody
play
wants to
be a
actually
store
admit
that
that
expects
we're
us
part
to
of the
pay
problem.
every day in order to play it. We just want our time, money, and our
Yes,
dedication
yes,
to the
we do.
properties we love, whether it's Baldur's Gate, Call of Duty, and more, to be respected and not taken advantage of every waking second. This is why this debate has really exposed a lot of these devs and the games that they
That's why
work
they
on
mad.
as being the true
That's why they're
problem at
mad.
the heart of
The
this.
devs are
I love
mad because they
Destiny,
got
but it
exposed.
frustrates
The devs are mad because they got exposed. When Larian Games came out with Baldur Gate, it started with Elden Ring. But it was a small talk when Elden Ring came out. It got worse by the time Baldur Gate came out. Because even in a game like Diablo, everybody was kind of expecting Diablo to have some form of microtransactions going on it because of what they did with Diablo Immortal, but not to this point. Like it's bad. It's bad. You say you want to be a pioneer and making devs have integrity. You're fighting a war that's gonna take a lot of support. And the problem that you got to get around is all these goofy asses on YouTube that make videos for money, supporting and hyping up a game that really does not deserve that type of support. That is a battle worth fighting, but it is a hard battle to fight for sure.
me to no end to see Bungie becoming more like Activision Blizzard with every release they have for the game. To the point that many would argue that Bungie, when it was still contracted with Activision to make Destiny, was actually better than
it was a better game.
Activision split.
It was a better game.
Somehow Bungie became free to make their own decisions, and that has resulted in their games and quality becoming worse.
Okay.
When they assured us the opposite.
As much as I love this game.
You can't tell me that
as much as I love Destiny. As much as I love Destiny, he's right. He is 100% right that even though it felt like Activision was the ones getting over on us with the way Destiny and Destiny 2 started out, Activision actually had the game in the right direction. The game was actually really good. And then Bungie breaks out on their own, goes free to play after a good majority of us had already bought Destiny 2. They went free to play, and then everything that they have added to the game since then has been hit and miss. So you had a couple of DLCs that came out that were just like, 5 to 10 minute little add-ons to the game. Then they came out with the Witch Queen, and that DLC was off the chain. Probably the best DLC I've seen. And then they went back to trying to just take the cheap road again. So I agree that Destiny was on a much better path when Activision had it versus them breaking out on their own. Sony hasn't stepped in much on what Bungie's got going on since they acquired Bungie, but I really hope PlayStation gets in and starts making Bungie kind of work by the PlayStation standard, because Destiny's getting ridiculous.
Developer, consumer, writer, or whatever, that the absolute state of modern gaming is not in a miasma of garbage right now. And
And
then
I'm saying
getting
this as
mad
a
that
person that
people are
loved the game.
actually excited for once in a long time about a new game is now a problem and shouldn't be expected. How dare any of these devs or executives sit there and be angry that consumers are actually happy for once in their lives when they buy a game? And
Because
it's
they
really
don't want
telling
us to
to
be
me that
happy. They
instead of
want us to keep
celebrating
shelling
and
out
learning from the
money.
success of
If
BG3,
too
the
many
modern
people
game
start making
industry's
games like
response is
Baldur
instead that it's a
and
problem and must be
Elden
pulled
Ring, where
down
they
to their
don't
level
add
instead.
a bunch of
Larian's boss
microtransactions
had
and
more
shit
to
to the
say on
game,
standards
it's
of
gonna
gaming as
force
well,
all
which
of
he
them to
said,
start
and I
doing it, and
quote,
they don't
"We
want that.
really just tried to make our game, so we were surprised when we saw that there was so much commotion about it." And it's just a weird thing, so it's hard to say that it's a standard. It offers a lot, that's for sure, and it
Yeah.
offers what we would like to see in an RPG.
Yeah.
So I hope a lot of people will make games like ours because that's what I and the rest of our team want to play, but there's a lot of other stuff that we want to play.
Yeah.
Everybody played Disco Elysium, that was made by a much smaller team, and it was a great
Yes.
and fantastic game. So that's a standard now,
Smaller
but
team
I'm a big
still
fan
made
of
a great
Into the
game.
Breach. That's a standard for me. So you've got a whole bunch of standards out there. The only game that exists in the universe for my youngest son is Minecraft. That's a standard for him. From
Yeah.
a player's point of view, I would come to expect that the platform holders at least set the standards because that's how it usually has been in the past.
No,
They
but the
always
devs are
say,
trying to set
"Here's
the
the guiding
standards is the
light,
problem.
people. This is possible now, so go and do stuff with it." That's always been how I looked at platforms, end quote. Sven is right again, since unlike many of these other devs, he's not looking to pull others down or attack them. He fully acknowledges that his team and their game will set a new standard, and he hopes that its existence doesn't damage or ruin the industry, but instead shows others that it's possible to still make great games and take risks.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I think what these devs that are against this are doing is that they're taking the wrong lessons away from this. Like I've said in previous videos
No,
about
they're not
this,
taking. They're not taking the wrong lessons. Trust me, they're not taking the wrong lessons. They fully understand what we mean, but they know that in doing what we're asking for, it's going to take away from that money, or they feel that way, not realizing that if you actually made a game, think about how much Baldur has sold. Look how much Elden Ring sold. Look how much Final Fantasy 16 sold. You actually make the same amount of money. If you make a good game, more people will buy it. Then you ain't got to milk everybody, nickel and dime everybody to death. You still would make the same amount of money, if not more, if you just made a good game.
Don't expect every game to be Baldur's Gate 3 in terms of size. But what we do and should expect is to receive a fully functioning product if we're also expected to
I
pay
spend my
a
money
full
on it. I
price
want to know that
for
what my
said
money
product.
went to.
That shouldn't be controversial or sacrilegious
Exactly.
to say. I also made a
Exactly.
joke on Twitter, or X, or whatever the hell you want to call it these days, about this too. This entire situation would be like if you were in a restaurant eating a really good meal, and then out of nowhere, tons of chefs from nearby restaurants rushed your table and started yelling that you shouldn't expect them to meet your expectations. We're not asking you to make the next industry standard every time. We just want you to meet our expectations in terms of your product working and being worth the money that we spend on it.
You.
Look,
Same thing
I
I've been
may
saying
be,
this whole
as some
time.
of you say, a shitty gaming YouTuber, but try to understand that when I make these videos, I'm not looking to attack this industry. I love video games. I love this industry with all my being because I truly believe video games are the ultimate frontier when it comes to entertainment. Nothing even remotely comes close in terms of enjoyment for me when compared to it. Music, movies, it doesn't matter. Video games to me outdoes it all.
That game
I
was
am
great.
just frustrated
This
like
game was
many
great.
others that we're all having to walk on eggshells constantly instead of properly talking about and addressing the problems at hand. So if we're willing to have a conversation about
That
the
game was
ethics
great.
of gaming
My favorite
and
game on
player
PS4.
expectations,
Bloodborne
maybe
was
don't block or
awesome.
censor anyone who
Took
disagrees
me
with you
6
in
hours.
response.
No, it took
Because
me more like
by
12
acting
hours
like
to beat
as
that
a
one
game
boss.
dev or executive that you are some amazing being standing on Mount Olympus, and we're all just lowly humans who must bow to your greatness, it's just not how this works. Your industry, your livelihood, and your ability to do what you do is determined by us. It's not the other way around.
Yes.
And remember that no matter how high and mighty you might think you are, even gods can be defeated. So try to understand that this is not about attacking the industry. But this is truly at its core about fixing an industry we all love before it collapses beyond repair. So instead of attacking your fan base, maybe for once, listen and try not to be an asshole. I think that's a good start. But what do I know, right? After all,
All
I'm
right.
just a shitty gaming YouTuber who gets discredited for saying the quiet part out loud. But
Anyway, y'all want to check this guy out. I watch a lot of his videos and he covers more than just video games. So I will link him in the channel here to this video. But if y'all want to check him out, he has a lot of videos that he does where he messes with not just the gaming industry, but like all platforms. So feel free to give him a follow. I wanted y'all to see that video because it's just like, hey man, that right there, what he's talking about was on point to what we need to change about the gaming industry. And it's gonna take more than just, you know, a few of us. It takes the entire community to actually fix this problem.